Undercover Mafia boss orders steak. Then a shy waitress slips him a napkin with a note that stops him cold. A mafia boss, who owns half the city's shadows, sits in a corner booth of his own 5-star restaurant, dressed like a drifter who wandered in off the street. He's not here for the steak. He's hunting for the one thing no amount of blood money can buy. He orders the $400 Emperor's Cut, a quiet test of the staff's soul. The shy waitress who serves him moves like a ghost, but there's a tremor in her fingers that slices through his armor. As she clears his plate, her hand brushes his, and a folded napkin slides into his palm. He expects a plea for cash, a cry for help. Instead, 6 words freeze the breath in his lungs and threaten to burn his empire to ash. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Now, let's continue. The weight of Asher Crane's power was a living thing, a second skin stitched from fear, loyalty, and bodies buried in concrete. At 38, he ruled the city's underbelly from a warehouse office that smelled of gun oil and old money. From a single nod, he could erase a man's name from existence or buy a mayor's silence with a briefcase. He was a king in a kingdom of knives and whispers, and he was starved for something real. The world he moved through was a stage. Every smile was rehearsed, every favor a debt, every kindness a blade in disguise. The real Asher, the boy who once fixed cars in his father's garage and dreamed of a life without blood, had been buried under layers of legend. Tonight's ritual was penance. Every few months he shed the myth of Asher Crane and became nobody. A faded leather jacket from a pawn shop, jeans worn soft at the knees, boots scuffed from years of walking bodies to their graves, a knit cap pulled low, a week of stubble, and eyes that didn't quite meet yours. In the cracked mirror of a bus station bathroom, he saw not a dawn, but a man who might be one bad night from sleeping under a bridge. The anonymity was oxygen. His destination, the Obsidian Room, the crown jewel of his legitimate front. A restaurant where senators toasted with wine older than their marriages and mob lieutenants laundered cash through $1,000 plates. He'd bought the place 3 years ago but never eaten here. His consigliere swore the service was flawless, the books clean, but numbers couldn't measure truth. Asher wanted to taste it through the eyes of someone who didn't matter. He pushed through the smoked glass doors, and the city's roar dissolved into the hush of money. The air was thick with truffle oil, cigar smoke, and the low hum of power. A chandelier the size of a car cast golden light over white tablecloths. The hostess, a red-lipped viper in a black dress, flicked her gaze over his jacket, her smile sharpening like a scalpel. "Table for one?" she asked, voice dripping with the implication he'd taken a wrong turn. The hum of conversation rose and fell like a tide across the restaurant, polished and rhythmic, a sound that might have soothed anyone else. To Asher Crane, it was nothing more than background noise, the clinking of forks, the murmured laughter of men who thought they ruled the world, and the hollow compliments of women who knew how to play their part. The room glittered under crystal chandeliers, their reflections bouncing off wine glasses and polished cutlery. Everything gleamed, too bright, too perfect. He sat in the far corner, half shadowed by a column, his posture casual but calculated. The dark jeans and simple jacket were a deliberate disguise. No one would look twice at a man like him, a face among many, hidden in plain sight. To anyone watching, he was another late-night diner with an expensive taste for steak and whiskey. The irony wasn't lost on him. The restaurant was his empire, his rules, and tonight he'd come disguised as a stranger among his own men. He'd done this before, disappearing from the top floor of power to walk through the middle of his kingdom. It reminded him who he was beneath the layers of money and fear. But this time felt different. The walls felt closer, the air thicker, as if the place itself was hiding something from him. A waiter brushed past, and Asher's eyes flicked to the side, observing the motion without turning his head. Every detail mattered. The speed of the service, the tone of the greetings, the small, telling mistakes people made when they thought no one important was watching. His gaze swept across the room. Tables lined with investors, politicians, and minor crime lords pretending to be respectable businessmen. Every handshake was a performance, every laugh a lie. The smell of truffle oil and red wine filled the air, masking the rot beneath. Then he saw her. Juliet rose. She was carrying a tray of empty glasses, her steps quiet and measured. Her uniform, black dress shirt and apron, was the same as every other waitress in the room, yet somehow she didn't fade into the background like they did. There was something different in the way she moved, not graceful, not clumsy, just present. She looked tired, not the kind of tired that came from long hours, but the kind that came from life itself. There was a stillness to her, a quiet defiance in the way she endured. Asher watched her weave between tables with the precision of someone who had done this far too long. When she finally approached his table, she offered the same polite smile she gave everyone else, practiced, controlled, empty. "Good evening," she said softly. "Would you like to start with something to drink?" Her voice was low, careful, but steady. "Whiskey," he said. "Neat." She nodded and scribbled the order on her notepad, her fingers moving quickly. Her hands were slender but rough, a faint scar crossing one knuckle. She wasn't one of the polished types the restaurant liked to hire for appearances. She was real, almost out of place here. As she turned to leave, he noticed something else. She didn't glance at his watch, his clothes, or his face like most people did when they met someone new. She didn't seem to care who he was. That intrigued him. When she returned with the whiskey, her expression hadn't changed. She placed the glass before him, careful not to make eye contact. The smell of oak and smoke curled upward as she stepped back. "Your server will be with you shortly for your meal order." He tilted his head slightly. "You're not my server." "I am tonight, sir," she said, almost hesitating before the title. "But I'm covering for someone." There was something in her tone, a trace of discomfort, maybe guilt. He couldn't tell which. "What happened to your coworker?" he asked, more out of curiosity than politeness. Juliet froze for half a heartbeat before answering. "She's not feeling well." A lie. He could hear it in her cadence. Years of reading people, enemies, allies, traitors, had sharpened his instincts. He didn't call her out on it. He just watched. "I see," he said quietly. When she left, Asher leaned back, letting the whiskey burn its way down his throat. His eyes followed her across the floor. She spoke to no one unless she had to. Her colleagues barely noticed her. That anonymity was dangerous and useful, depending on who you were. He'd built an empire on silence like hers. Half an hour later, she returned. "Are you ready to order?" He looked up, meeting her eyes for the first time. Deep brown, steady despite the exhaustion behind them. "The Emperor's cut," he said. "Medium rare." "Of course." He could tell she didn't know who he was. Most people in this restaurant would have recognized him instantly if not for the disguise, the haircut too plain, the jacket too ordinary. But she looked at him as if he were nobody. That, to Asher Crane, was refreshing. As she turned away, he said, "You don't like it here." The words came out low, almost conversational, but they stopped her mid-step. She turned slowly, her expression controlled. "I beg your pardon?" "You don't like working here," he repeated. "I like having a job," she said evenly. He smiled faintly. "That's not what I asked." For a second her composure cracked, just a flicker in her eyes, before she replied, "It's a job, sir, that's all." She walked off before he could say anything else. He didn't stop watching her. There was truth hidden beneath that thin layer of politeness. She didn't belong here, not among these people. Her presence was like a whisper in a room full of noise. When the steak arrived, Juliet placed the plate in front of him carefully. The scent of charred meat and butter filled the air. She adjusted the knife and fork with quiet precision, her hands trembling only slightly. "Enjoy your meal." He looked up again, catching her gaze just as she turned to leave. "What's your name?" She hesitated before answering. "Juliet." He repeated it under his breath as she walked away, a name too soft for a place like this. The evening stretched on. The restaurant buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. But Asher's attention drifted back to Juliet again and again. She was efficient but distant, polite but detached. There was no warmth in her movements, but there was something raw, something that came from living on the edge of collapse. He thought about how people wore masks, all of them, but Juliet's mask was different. Hers wasn't about deception, it was protection. He understood that too well. He ate slowly, not for the taste, but for the illusion of patience. From his table he could see everything, the manager whispering near the bar, the bartender pocketing a tip, a hostess sneaking glances at a patron who wasn't her husband. Every detail told a story. Every story told him something about loyalty, greed, or fear. When Juliet returned to check on him, he asked, "Do you ever wonder who owns this place?" She blinked, surprised by the question. "No, sir, not really." "You've never met him?" "No." She shook her head, her ponytail brushing against her collar. "I just work here." He smiled, faintly amused. "You'd be surprised how much the owner notices." She frowned slightly, as if trying to decide if he was joking. "I'm sure he does." She turned away again, but Asher could feel her unease. Something about him had caught her off guard, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she didn't like it. When she disappeared into the kitchen, Asher's expression shifted. Beneath the calm exterior, suspicion began to stir. His instincts told him something was off, not with her, but with the air of the place. The staff was more tense than usual. Conversations near the bar had a clipped tone, hurried and secretive. He'd chosen this restaurant for a reason. One of his newest establishments, the kind that generated impressive profit margins. But numbers on paper weren't enough. He needed to know who he could still trust. He took another sip of whiskey, eyes fixed on the kitchen doors. Minutes later, Juliet emerged again, carrying a tray of desserts to another table. The way she moved, deliberate, cautious, reminded him of someone walking through a minefield. He wondered what had broken her spirit like that. An hour passed before the crowd began to thin. The laughter softened, replaced by the clatter of dishes and the faint hiss of the espresso machine. The energy of the room shifted from indulgence to fatigue. Juliet returned to clear his plate. "Was everything to your satisfaction?" "Yes," he said, "though I can't tell if you mean that question or not." She blinked, unsure how to respond. "I just ask what we're told to." "That's what I thought." He smiled, a slow, knowing curve that made her uncomfortable. Not because it was cruel, but because it felt like he could see through her. As she reached for his plate, her hand brushed against his glass. The faint tremor was there again. She quickly steadied it, but he noticed. "Long shift?" he asked. "Always," she replied. "You're not from here." It wasn't a question. She froze, then said softly, "No." He nodded once, as if he already knew. "City like this eats people alive. You must be careful what you let it take." Her eyes met his for a heartbeat. Something passed between them, recognition perhaps. Then she stepped back. "Good night, sir." When she walked away, Asher's eyes lingered on her until she vanished through the staff door. The napkin lay folded on the edge of the table, innocuous among the crumbs. He unfolded it slowly, the paper crinkling like a warning. The words were scrawled in hurried ink. "They know who you are. Get out before it's too late." His pulse steadied, but the room tilted for a fraction of a second. No one here should know. No one. He folded the napkin again and slipped it into his pocket. Juliet was already gone, lost in the back corridors. But her tremor, her curiosity, her quiet defiance, they all pointed to one thing. She had seen something, heard something, and in warning him, she had stepped into his world without realizing the cost. Asher signaled for the bill, signed with a false name, and left an envelope beneath the plate, a note to himself. Check the staff, especially her. Outside, the night air bit sharp against his skin. His car waited, engine humming low. He paused at the curb, glancing back through the windows. Juliet collected glasses, small and resolute against the glittering backdrop. "Did you find what you were looking for, sir?" his driver asked. Asher slid into the seat. "No, but I found something better." The car pulled away, the restaurant shrinking in the mirror. Honesty had evaded him again, but mystery had taken its place. And Juliet Rose, weary and unnoticed, had just become the most important piece on his board. The restaurant was quieter tonight. The usual laughter and chatter had dulled into a softer rhythm, almost hesitant, like the calm that follows a storm. Outside, the wind pressed faint streaks of rain against the glass, streaking the city lights into wavering lines of gold. Inside, everything gleamed as it always did, polished, perfect, rehearsed. Juliet adjusted her apron and tied it twice to keep her hands busy. The weight in her chest hadn't left since the night before. She had gone home with her mind spinning, replaying the brief conversation she'd had with the man in the corner, the one with steady eyes who seemed to see through every layer of her composure. She hadn't known who he was then. She still didn't, but something about him had unsettled her in ways she couldn't quite explain. She told herself he was just another customer, just another face in the crowd, but faces like that didn't fade easily. As she moved between tables, the air felt heavier. Maybe it was the weather, maybe it was exhaustion, or maybe it was the low murmurs drifting from the private booth near the bar. Two men sat there, dressed too casually for the price of the wine they were drinking. Their voices were hushed, but sharp. Juliet tried not to listen, tried to keep walking. She failed. Her ears caught fragments, the kind that shouldn't have reached her at all. "He's not supposed to be here tonight." "Doesn't matter. We've got clearance." "Clearance from who?" A pause, then the quieter voice, almost a whisper. "From upstairs. They know." Juliet froze behind a pillar, tray in hand. Her pulse thudded so hard she was afraid someone might hear it. Upstairs could mean management, but something in the man's tone, the cold certainty, told her it meant something else entirely. She inched away before anyone noticed, but the conversation kept replaying in her head, every word sharper than the last. Back in the kitchen, she poured herself water and leaned against the counter. Her throat was dry. She didn't belong in things like this. Secrets, danger, hidden power. She had spent her life staying invisible. Keeping quiet had kept her safe. But tonight felt different. Through the small window in the kitchen door, she could see him again, the man from last night, the stranger in the corner. He was back. Same table, same calm posture, same unreadable expression. Her stomach dropped. Why was he here again? She told herself it was a coincidence. But the voice in her head whispered that coincidences were luxuries people like her couldn't afford. Juliet forced herself to focus, grabbing a tray and pretending not to notice him. But as she walked toward the dining room, her eyes betrayed her. They found him again, sitting alone, half in shadow, watching the room the way a hawk watches the field. Their eyes met for just a second, and in that second she realized he wasn't here for dinner. He was watching, just as he had before, quietly, intentionally. Her breath caught, but she looked away quickly and busied herself clearing another table. When she returned to the kitchen, she scribbled something on a small order pad. The words came out before she could stop herself. "They know who you are. Get out before it's too late." Her hand trembled. She stared at the note for a long time. She didn't even know what she was doing. It was foolish, dangerous, but something deep inside told her she had to warn him. She didn't know what "they know" even meant, but every instinct screamed that the man outside was walking into something bad. She folded the slip of paper, small enough to hide in her palm. When she stepped back into the dining room, she moved as though nothing had changed. The rhythm of service returned, plates, glasses, polite nods, but her heartbeat refused to slow. Asher Crane noticed her the moment she reappeared. He hadn't missed the way she avoided looking at him. He hadn't missed the faint pallor in her face, the way she seemed to float through the room like someone lost in thought. Something was wrong. When she reached his table, he greeted her with a calm smile. "Whiskey. Neat." She nodded, her voice quiet. "Of course." He watched her leave. The way her hand brushed her apron pocket told him there was something hidden there, something she didn't want anyone to see. By the time she returned with the drink, she had composed herself, or tried to. "Here you go, sir." "Thank you," he said, meeting her eyes. For a moment everything went still. The world around them, the chatter, the cutlery, the music, all faded. She set the glass down, leaned in slightly to clear his plate, and in one fluid motion let the folded napkin slip from her palm to the edge of the table. He saw it, but he didn't react. He simply nodded, as though thanking her for the service. When she walked away, his hand moved casually over the napkin and pulled it beneath his plate. His pulse didn't quicken, but his mind sharpened. He waited. 10 seconds, 20. Then he unfolded it slowly under the table. The handwriting was hurried, uneven, but the message was clear. "They know who you are. Get out before it's too late." For a man who had built an empire on paranoia and control, those words carried weight. He didn't look up immediately. He let his gaze drift, expression neutral, but his mind raced through possibilities. Who was they? What did they know? And why was this waitress, this quiet, unassuming girl, the messenger? He glanced toward the bar. The two men Juliet had overheard were still there, laughing now, but the laughter was strained. One of them kept checking his watch. The other was too still. It clicked. Someone had leaked his presence. Asher's disguise was good. Average suit, no guards, different car, but it wasn't foolproof. Someone on the inside had talked. He slid the napkin into his pocket and lifted the glass to his lips. The whiskey burned clean. Juliet watched from across the room, her hands clasped behind her back, pretending to polish cutlery. She couldn't read his face. He looked calm, too calm, and that terrified her even more. He stayed seated for another 15 minutes. When he finally stood, his chair made no sound against the floor. He left a few bills on the table, unnecessary, but symbolic, and walked toward the door with the steady grace of a man who controlled the air around him. Juliet's pulse pounded. Had he seen it? Had he understood? As he passed her station, he paused, just briefly. "Thank you, Juliet." Her breath caught. He remembered her name. When the door shut behind him, she felt both relief and dread. She finished her shift in silence. The night dragged. When she finally clocked out, the city felt colder than usual. She pulled her coat tight and walked toward the bus stop, replaying everything in her head. Maybe she'd done the right thing. Maybe she hadn't. But across the street, parked beneath the yellow glow of a lamppost, a black car idled with its lights off. Inside, Asher sat motionless. His driver said nothing. Through the windshield, he watched Juliet walking alone down the wet sidewalk, head lowered against the wind. He'd been watching since she stepped outside. "She warned me," he said finally, almost to himself. "Yes, sir," the driver replied. "Do you want me to follow her?" "No." He paused. "Not yet." He leaned back in the seat, eyes narrowing. Who were the men at the booth? Who had given them clearance? And how much had Juliet really heard? The warning had come too easily, too perfectly timed. Part of him trusted it. The other part saw the possibility of a setup. In his world, good intentions were often bait. Still, something about her had felt genuine. The tremor in her hand, the fear in her eyes. It wasn't an act. He made a note on his phone. Find out who Juliet Rose is. The next morning, Juliet's alarm dragged her out of a shallow sleep. The rain hadn't stopped. She moved through her small apartment like a ghost. Cracked mirror, half-broken kettle, faded curtains. She tried not to think about the night before, but the note haunted her. At work, everything looked the same, but felt different. The manager was tense. The two men from the bar were gone. The staff whispered about something, a fight, a problem with the books, maybe a health inspection. The lies blended into the air like perfume. Juliet stayed quiet. Near the end of her shift, she stepped into the alley behind the restaurant for a breath of air. The city buzzed faintly beyond the dumpsters and dripping pipes. She closed her eyes, trying to calm herself. That's when she heard footsteps. She turned quickly. Asher Crane stood a few feet away, his jacket collar turned up against the drizzle. He looked different out here. Colder, harder, more himself. "Juliet," he said, voice low. Her throat tightened. You came back." "I did." He took a step closer, not threatening, but deliberate. "That note, you wrote it." She nodded. "Tell me what you heard." Her hands trembled as she wrung them together. "I didn't mean to listen. I was clearing the booth near the bar. They were talking about someone, about you. I didn't understand everything, but it sounded like they knew. They said something about clearance and money. I thought maybe you were in trouble." His gaze didn't waver. "Why warn me?" Juliet swallowed hard. "Because I couldn't not." He studied her for a long moment, reading every twitch of her face, every flicker of fear. She wasn't lying. "You shouldn't get involved in things that aren't yours," he said quietly. "People who do don't stay safe for long." Her eyes glistened, but she held his gaze. "I didn't do it for safety." He almost smiled, almost. "No, I don't suppose you did." A car horn sounded faintly in the distance. Asher's expression shifted, back to business. "Stay away from the booth near the bar. If anyone asks, you never spoke to me." Juliet nodded quickly. "All right." He turned to leave, but paused halfway. "Juliet." She looked up. "Thank you." Then he was gone, swallowed by the rain and the noise of the city. Juliet stood there, the cold biting through her thin jacket, unsure whether she had just saved a man's life or walked herself into danger. Inside the car, Asher's phone buzzed. A message from his second-in-command. "Found them. They're not ours." Asher's eyes darkened. So the threat hadn't come from inside. That meant someone outside the organization had made a move, and Juliet's warning had bought him precious time. He looked out the window at the glowing restaurant sign. "Protector," he said quietly. "Understood, sir." The driver pulled into traffic. Asher leaned back, the faintest ghost of a smile crossing his lips. He hadn't trusted anyone in years. But last night, a waitress with trembling hands had given him the first honest thing he'd seen in a long time. Fear without motive, kindness without price. For now, that was enough. He took out the crumpled napkin from his pocket, smoothed it out, and read the words again. "They know who you are. Get out before it's too late." He folded it carefully, slipped it into his coat, and looked out at the rain-blurred streets. The city was shifting. The game was changing. And somewhere in the middle of it, Juliet Rose had just become a part of his world, whether she wanted to or not. I should have never given him that note. The thought keeps circling my mind like a restless bird trapped in a cage. Every time I try to shove it away, it beats its wings louder, reminding me of the mistake I can't undo. I stand behind the counter, wiping the same glass for the third time, pretending to focus while my pulse drums beneath my skin. The diner hums with its usual evening rhythm, clinking cutlery, low conversations, the faint hiss from the grill. But to me, everything feels different tonight. There's a charge in the air, heavy, watching, waiting. When I handed Asher the note, I thought I was doing something brave, maybe even right. Now I can't stop imagining what kind of man he really is, and what kind of people are watching him. I tell myself he's just another customer, a stranger who walked in hungry, ate, and left. But deep down, I know that isn't true. Something about him, his calm, quiet stare, the way he measures every sound around him, tells me that his world runs deeper and darker than I'll ever understand, and I may have just stepped right into it. I steal a glance at him from across the room. He's sitting in the same booth as before, his broad shoulders slightly hunched, head tilted as though he's listening to something only he can hear. The note rests on the table beside his untouched cup of coffee. He hasn't left. He's been there for nearly an hour. I don't know what's worse, that he hasn't read it or that he already has. I wipe my palms on my apron and take a deep breath. Maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe he's harmless. Maybe the whispers I overheard from the men in suits 2 nights ago about testing loyalty and keeping the girl quiet had nothing to do with him. But what if they did? I move to the coffee machine and press the button just to have something to do with my hands. The machine groans and hot steam curls into the air. The sound hides the tremor in my breath. "Juliet," Terry, the cook, calls from the kitchen. "Order up, table 5. "Got it," I say, forcing my voice to sound normal. I pick up the plate and walk past Asher's booth. My heart stutters as his eyes lift to meet mine. They're sharper tonight, studying, not casual. The kind of look that makes you feel seen, stripped even. My throat tightens. I set the plate on table 5 and turn away before he can say anything. He's still watching me. I can feel it. I retreat behind the counter again, hiding behind a tower of napkins and coffee pots. My reflection in the glass shows a woman trying too hard to act normal. I don't even recognize myself right now. Maybe I'm just tired. That's what I keep telling myself. Tired from double shifts, from bills, from my brother's hospital calls, from pretending every night that this place, this diner, is safe. But something about tonight tells me it's not. An hour crawls by before Asher stands. My pulse leaps. He slides his jacket on, slow and deliberate, then reaches for the note. I brace myself. Maybe he'll crumple it. Maybe he'll confront me. Maybe he'll pretend he never saw it. Instead, he folds it once and slips it into his pocket. Then he walks toward the counter. I grip the coffee pot like it's a weapon. "Refill?" I ask, my voice too high. He studies me. You always this generous with your customers. I swallow hard. Just doing my job. He leans a little closer, enough that I can smell faint traces of cedar and rain on his coat. You sure that's all you were doing? My heart stumbles. What are you talking about? He glances around. The diner's half empty now. Only 2 truckers in the corner and Terry humming off key in the kitchen. Asher lowers his voice. You shouldn't write things you don't understand. There it is. He read it. I force myself to meet his eyes. And what if I do understand? He gives a short, humorless smile. Then you're in trouble. I feel a chill crawl down my neck. What does that mean? But he's already stepping back. Forget it, Juliet. Pretend it never happened. He knows my name. I never told him. My chest tightens as I watch him leave. The bell above the door chimes once, and he's gone, swallowed by the rain outside. I want to run after him, demand answers, beg him to tell me what danger I've stirred up. But fear nails me to the floor. Instead, I keep working until closing, moving like a ghost through my own body. When the last customer leaves, I lock the door and exhale. My hands are shaking. I wipe the tables one last time, trying to calm my mind, but every shadow outside the window feels like a watcher. Every flicker of the neon sign seems like a warning. By the time I step out, the rain has softened to a mist. The streetlights throw long, blurry halos across the pavement. My car is parked at the far end of the lot. I pull my jacket tight and walk fast. Halfway there, I hear footsteps behind me. They're steady, controlled. Someone who doesn't want to be noticed but doesn't care if they are. I spin around. The lot looks empty. Hello? My voice trembles. No answer. I grip my keys between my fingers, the metal biting into my palm, and hurry to the car. When I reach it, a dark shape detaches from the shadows. Tall, broad, familiar. Asher? I breathe out. He steps closer, water dripping from his hair. You shouldn't walk alone this late. Are you following me? Call it. Making sure you get home safe. I cross my arms. You think I'm in danger, don't you? His silence is an answer. Then tell me what's going on. I push. Who were those men you were with that night? What did that note mean to you? He exhales slowly. It's not about me, Juliet. It's about who saw you give it to me. My stomach drops. Who saw? He looks past me toward the diner. You need to be careful. They'll think you know something. But I don't. I know. He cuts in, his tone gentler now. But they don't care. The fear in his eyes is worse than any threat. It's the look of someone who's seen what happens when people get too close. Then what do? I whisper. He hesitates, glancing at the street like he's weighing something. Go home. Keep your lights off tonight. Don't answer the door for anyone. That's not enough. You're not telling me everything. He steps closer again, his face only inches from mine. Because the less you know, the longer you stay alive. The words hit harder than the rain. Before I can say anything else, he turns and walks away. The mist swallows him again, and I'm left standing there, drenched in confusion and dread. I barely sleep. Every sound from outside makes me flinch. The apartment feels too quiet, too exposed. My brother's asleep in the next room. His coughs faint through the thin walls, and that's the only thing grounding me. I stay by the window, watching the empty street. It's past midnight when I see a black car roll slowly past my building. No headlights, no plates. My breath stops. I reach for my phone, ready to call Asher, but I don't even have his number. Just his name on the receipt he left that first night. A. Hale. No phone, no address, nothing. The car idles for a few seconds, then moves on. But I know it'll be back. I sit in the dark until morning. The next evening I show up for work early. The diner feels different again. Quieter. Heavier. Terry looks at me funny when I walk in. "You okay?" he asks. "You look like you saw a ghost." "Just tired," I say, tying my apron. He shrugs and goes back to flipping burgers. I keep scanning the door every few minutes, waiting for Asher, waiting for something. The bell finally rings around 8, and there he is. He looks more guarded tonight. Black coat, no smile, eyes darting once before settling on me. He takes the same booth. I pour his coffee before he asks, setting it down with a whisper. "You came back." He studies me. "You didn't stay home. Would you have?" He doesn't answer, just gestures to the seat across from him. "Sit." I glance around. "I'm working." "No, you're not. Terry can handle it." "Sit." My hands tremble slightly as I slide into the booth. The air between us feels charged again. Part danger, part something else I can't name. "Tell me," I say quietly. "What did I give you that night?" He takes out the folded note, places it between us. "A test." I frown. "A test?" He leans forward. "Someone wanted to see if I could be trusted. They used you." I blink. "Used me? How?" "That note wasn't from you. It was meant for me. But they wanted to see how I'd react when an innocent person delivered it." I feel cold all over. "So it was never about me?" His eyes soften a little. "It was always about you. They wanted to know if I'd protect you." "Protect me from what?" He sighs. "From them." My pulse hammers. "You said they think I know something. What do they want?" He doesn't answer. Instead, he slides the note toward me. "Read it." I unfold the paper. It's short. One sentence written in a hand I don't recognize. "If he passes the test, she lives." My throat goes dry. What does that mean? "It means you're alive because I didn't fail." I stare at him, the words barely sinking in. "Who are they, Asher?" He looks away, jaw tightening. "People who don't forgive mistakes." "Then why tell me this? Why not just walk away?" He meets my gaze again. "Because you're part of it now." Something in his tone makes my skin prickle. Not a threat, a warning laced with regret. I look down at the note again, fingers trembling. "So what happens now?" He pauses, then says, "Now, I keep you alive long enough to find out who wanted you dead." I blink. "You're saying someone—" "Yes." He cuts me off, voice low. "And they won't stop." A lump rises in my throat. "You don't even know me." "I didn't have to," he murmurs. "I saw enough." Our eyes lock. There's something fierce and unspoken in his expression, the kind of thing that burns slowly, dangerously, like the first spark of a flame. The bell above the door rings, breaking the moment. 2 men in dark coats walk in, scanning the room before taking a table near the back. Asher's posture stiffens. "Don't look at them," he whispers. "Who are they?" "Part of the test," he says grimly. "And this time, it's mine." I keep my eyes on the counter as I stand. My legs feel like they might give out. The men order coffee, pretending not to look our way, but I can feel their gaze crawling up my spine. Asher stays seated, calm but alert, his hand hidden beneath the table. I realize he's armed. My stomach twists. I force myself to serve the new table. My voice shakes as I ask what they want. One of them smiles, too slow, too polite. "Just coffee, sweetheart, and tell your friend over there we're watching." I almost drop the pot. When I return to the counter, Asher is already standing. He places cash on the table. "Go to the back," he says quietly. "Now." I open my mouth to protest, but he's already moving toward the door, his eyes locked on the men. I duck behind the counter, heart slamming. Terry's still in the kitchen, humming, oblivious to the tension building in the air. The next few seconds stretch forever. Then I hear the scrape of chairs, the shuffle of feet, and a single heavy thud. Silence. I peek around the corner. One man is gone. The other sits slumped in the booth, unconscious. Asher's gone too. The door swings shut behind him. Hours later, after the police and questions and statements I can't answer, I walk home under the flickering streetlights, my thoughts a whirlwind. They called it a robbery attempt. I didn't correct them. I unlock my apartment quietly. My brother's sleeping. The note is still in my pocket. I unfold it one last time before tearing it to pieces. If he passes the test, she lives. It should feel over. But I know it's not. Asher's gone, but his words keep echoing in my mind. You're part of it now. And as I stare out the window into the dark, I realize something's shifted inside me. Fear still grips me, but beneath it, there's something else. A flicker of something reckless and new. Maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's survival, or maybe it's the beginning of my own test. The evening stretched long into the night, the quiet buzz of the restaurant fading as the last patrons slowly trickled out. Juliet stood behind the bar, the soft clink of glassware echoing in the otherwise silent space. Her thoughts swirled around the conversation she had just had with Asher Crane. Her heart was still pounding in her chest, her breath a little too shallow, her nerves frayed. She had known something was off, but this was far deeper than she could have ever imagined. Her life up until now had been simple. She worked as a waitress, moved through the motions of the day-to-day grind, but that was before she overheard something she shouldn't have, before she got caught up in a world she knew little about. She had only given him a note, a quiet warning, not knowing how it would alter the course of her life. Now, standing there alone, she felt like a deer in headlights, unsure of what the next moment would bring. She glanced up as the door swung open, signaling that the last of the employees were finishing their shifts and the restaurant was nearing its final closure. Her stomach knotted. She had been expecting this moment ever since Asher had asked to speak with her earlier, but now that it was here, she didn't feel ready. A man in a casual yet unmistakably authoritative posture walked through the door. It was Asher. His presence filled the room instantly, and Juliet felt her pulse quicken. His piercing gaze was trained directly on her as he approached the bar. She had seen many faces, many customers, and many strangers in her time here, but none had left her with the sense of weight that Asher did. He wasn't just anyone. He had made his offer earlier. A promise of an escape from the world she had become trapped in. But now, standing face to face with him, Juliet wondered if she had been foolish to even entertain the thought. What kind of man was he? A mafia boss? Someone who controlled more than just the restaurant he sat in. Her fingers gripped the edge of the bar tightly, her knuckles turning white. Asher noticed his eyes narrowing slightly, his gaze piercing yet calm. Juliet. He greeted her in that low, steady voice that had made her heart flutter with both fear and curiosity. We need to talk. She nodded slowly, feeling a weight settle between them. She had avoided this conversation in her mind for as long as she could, but now the moment had come. There was no running from it. Is this about what I said earlier? Juliet asked, her voice quieter than she meant it to be. She wasn't afraid, at least she didn't want to admit that she was, but there was something about Asher that made her feel as though she was on the edge of something much bigger than herself. Yes, Asher replied, his voice steady. But it's more than that now. He took a step closer, his body language casual, yet there was something in the way he moved that told her he was in control. The familiar tension she had felt earlier in their brief conversation crept up again. Juliet bit her lip, trying to steady herself. "I didn't ask for any of this," she said, her words coming out sharper than she expected. "I never asked to be a part of your world, Asher." He didn't flinch at her tone. "I know, but you are now. The question is whether or not you want to stay a part of it." Her heart skipped. The gravity of his words hit her all at once. Juliet knew in that moment that the choice wasn't hers anymore, not really. "You've seen too much," Asher continued, his voice low and deliberate. "You can walk away, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. No questions asked, no consequences. Or you can stay, but if you stay, things will change. And not just for you, for everyone around you." The threat wasn't overt, but it hung in the air, thick and undeniable. Asher had control, and he knew it. She had no illusions about how much power he wielded. She had already been caught in his web, whether she liked it or not. Juliet's hands shook as she wiped them down on the bar. She wasn't sure why she felt so conflicted. Maybe it was the weight of her own fear, or perhaps it was the genuine curiosity that Asher had awakened in her, the part of her that had wanted to run away, to hide, and live her quiet life, and the part that had never been allowed to see how deep the world she lived in really went. "I just want to help my brother," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't want any of this. I just wanted a chance to fix things, to give him the care he needs." Asher studied her for a long moment. His eyes softened ever so slightly. "I know you didn't ask for this, but you've been caught in the gears now, Juliet. Your brother, your life, everything. It's all part of the same system now, whether you like it or not." Juliet's throat tightened as the weight of his words sank in. She had never wanted to be involved in anything that wasn't about survival. Her brother's illness had become the only reason she woke up every day, the only thing she cared about. And now, here she was, facing a man who had the power to change everything. She forced herself to meet his eyes. "What are you asking me to do?" Asher didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took a step back, as though giving her space to breathe, to think. The room felt suddenly too small, the tension thickening with every passing second. He didn't need to say the words aloud. She could hear them in his silence. Stay with him. Be a part of his world. "You don't have to decide right now," Asher said, his voice softer now. "But there's more at stake than just you, Juliet. I've been watching you. I know your story. You've had a hard life, but you have something most people don't. Integrity. It's rare in my world." Juliet flinched at his words. She hadn't expected that. Integrity? In a world ruled by greed and violence, integrity was a rare commodity. She had clung to it because it was all she had left, but it didn't seem to fit in the dark underworld Asher controlled. "I don't want to be part of your world, Asher," she said, her voice stronger now. "I don't want to be another pawn in some game I don't understand." "You already are," Asher replied softly but firmly. "The question is whether or not you want to play on your own terms." The weight of his words settled between them, thick and unyielding. Juliet could feel the pressure mounting, the realization that she had no way out. She was already in this world, and whether she liked it or not, she would have to choose to trust him or remain trapped in the suffocating grip of her fears and her desperate attempt to survive. Asher stepped back, watching her carefully. His gaze was no longer threatening, but it held an undeniable weight, an invitation. He was offering her a chance, not to escape, but to join him. Juliet didn't answer right away. The silence between them stretched long and thin, and she felt the shifting of her world beneath her feet. The room seemed to close in on her, the walls pressing in as she tried to make sense of it all. "Take your time," Asher said, his voice a low murmur. "But remember, sometimes it's not about what you want. It's about what you're willing to accept." He turned to leave, his silhouette fading into the dim light of the hallway. Juliet remained standing behind the bar, her heart pounding in her chest. The world she had known was slipping away. Asher Crane's offer had shifted the ground beneath her feet, and now she had to decide whether to let it swallow her whole or rise to meet it. The silence after chaos is worse than the noise itself. It stretches thin, whispering in corners, filling cracks that noise used to hide. Tonight, that silence is heavy, the kind that presses down until even breathing feels like a confession. The diner's lights are dimmer than usual, or maybe my eyes are just tired. The metallic scent of spilled coffee still lingers in the air, mixed with faint traces of smoke and fear. The police are gone. The customers are gone. Even Terry went home early after giving me that long, worried look. But I stay. I can't seem to leave the scene behind. Not yet. Every time I close my eyes, I see Asher's face as he walked out the door. Controlled, calculated, gone before I could even speak. He saved me. Again. And I don't even know why. The clock ticks past midnight. I run a towel over the counter just to keep my hands busy. Outside, rain slides down the windows in long, shimmering trails, warping the reflection of the neon "Open" sign until it looks more like "Nope." Maybe that's fitting. The back door creaks. My heart lurches. I turn, and there he is, Asher. He's standing in the doorway that leads from the alley, shoulders damp, eyes dark with something unreadable. For a second, my mind blanks. My throat dries. I don't know if I should be relieved or terrified. He closes the door behind him, locking it quietly. His coat drips onto the tile. He doesn't speak at first, just watches me, his chest rising and falling in slow, even breaths. The air feels charged again, like the night before a storm. "I didn't think you'd come back," I manage, voice barely above a whisper. He takes a step closer, unhurried. "You didn't think I'd let you stay here alone either." There's no edge in his tone, just calm authority, the kind that disarms you without shouting. But that calm is what scares me most. It's the stillness before something dangerous moves. "I told the police what they wanted to hear," I say quickly. "They believed it. No one mentioned your name." "I know." He pauses, studying me. "You did well." I blink. "That's it? That's all you came to say?" He tilts his head slightly. "Not exactly." I can feel my pulse quicken. He takes another step, close enough that I can see the faint cut near his temple, dried blood tracing the line of his hair. "You're hurt," I say before I can stop myself. "It's nothing." His eyes never leave mine. "You, on the other hand, you've got explaining to do." I freeze. "Explaining?" He gestures toward the back of the diner. "Let's not do this out here." Something in his voice leaves no room for argument. I nod slowly and push open the door to the small storage room behind the kitchen. The fluorescent light flickers above us, making everything feel sharper. His jawline, the tension in his shoulders, the exhaustion on my face. He closes the door behind us, and suddenly the world feels very small. I lean against the counter, folding my arms. "You said you wanted an explanation. About what?" "The note," he says simply. You knew what you were doing when you handed it to me. You might not know why it mattered, but you knew it was dangerous. His voice is calm, but the weight of it presses into me like gravity. I open my mouth, but no words come. My mind races. The moment I slipped him the paper, the whisper I overheard, the cold eyes of the men who came later. I thought it was just a message, I say finally. I didn't know it was part of some test. Asher's gaze narrows. Who told you to give it to me? No one told me. It was left on the counter under a receipt. I thought someone forgot it. When I saw your name on it, I hesitate, guilt burning through me. I thought maybe it was personal. Personal, he repeats quietly. You read it? I nod, feeling my stomach twist. I wish I hadn't. He exhales through his nose, slow and steady, pacing once before turning back to me. And you didn't think to tell anyone? I glare, sudden defensiveness rising. Who would I tell? You? The police? The people who left it? I don't even know who they are. The words come out sharper than I intend, echoing in the small space. He stops pacing. For a moment, neither of us speaks. Then to my surprise, he smiles. Just barely, but it's there. You've got guts, he says. Excuse me? You're scared out of your mind, but you're still standing here, talking back to me. Most people would have run by now. Maybe I should have. He steps closer. But you didn't. His nearness sends a strange shiver through me. I tell myself it's fear, but deep down I know it's something else. Something that both unsettles and draws me in. His eyes are steady, like he's reading every thought before I can even form it. What do you want from me, Asher? I whisper. The truth. I shake my head. I've told you everything. No, he says softly. You told me what happened. I want to know why. My heart stumbles. Why what? Why you gave it to me. Why you didn't just throw it away like anyone else would have. I swallow hard. Because it had your name, and because something about it felt wrong. Wrong. Like whoever wrote it wasn't just leaving a message, like they were warning you or threatening you. He studies me in silence, and for the first time, I see something shift behind his calm. Something raw, almost human. You trusted your instinct, he says finally. I guess. He nods once. Then you did the right thing. That catches me off guard. The right thing? I almost got killed because of it. Maybe, he says, but you're still alive, and now I know who I can trust. I blink, confused. Trust? You barely know me. He steps closer again, the distance between us dissolving until I can feel the warmth of his breath. I know enough. The silence that follows is thick. I should move, say something, anything, but I don't. My body betrays me, frozen between fear and something I don't dare name. Finally, I force myself to speak. You said this was a test. Who's testing you, Asher? His jaw tightens. People I used to work for. Used to? He nods once. Used to, until they decided I was better off dead. I stare at him. So you're saying... I'm saying you stumbled into something you were never meant to see, and now they'll think you're part of it. My throat dries. Part of what? He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he walks past me, sets his palms on the counter, and stares at the floor like he's choosing his words carefully. When he finally speaks, his voice is low. There's a network. Call it a company, an organization, whatever. They deal in information, favors, leverage. I was one of them until I realized what they were really doing. And the note? A test, he says again. They wanted to know if I'd follow orders. The note was bait. and you were the collateral. A cold shiver runs through me. So if you hadn't passed, they would have made an example out of you. I grip the edge of the counter to steady myself. You could have told me. And said what? Hey, Juliet, you're accidentally involved in a covert power game between men who erase people for sport? You wouldn't have believed me. Try me, I say quietly. He turns, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. Maybe I am now. There's something about the way he looks at me, the flicker of respect in his eyes, mixed with guilt, that makes my chest tighten. I should be angry. I should tell him to leave, but instead, all I can think is that he's the only one who hasn't lied to me. Not yet. So what happens now? I ask. He studies me for a long moment. Now I keep you close. The words hang heavy in the air. You mean protect me? I mean make sure they can't use you again. That sounds a lot like you're planning to babysit me. Think of it as insurance. I shake my head. I don't need insurance. I need my life back. He pushes off the counter, closing the space between us again. You won't have one if you walk out of here pretending this never happened. I flinch at his tone, not harsh, but final. He's not threatening me. He's telling the truth. And that's what terrifies me most. What if I say no? I whisper. Then you're dead in a week. The words slice through the air like glass. I feel them in my chest, cold and certain. He watches me, waiting for my reaction. For a moment I can't speak. Then something inside me snaps. You can't just walk in here and tell me how this ends. I'm not, he says softly. I'm telling you how it doesn't. The anger fades as quickly as it came, replaced by something heavier. Resignation. The world I thought I knew is gone, replaced by something darker, sharper. And standing here with him, I realize I'm not sure I ever want to go back. I look down at my trembling hands. Why are you helping me? He hesitates, then says, because you didn't run. Because you tried to do the right thing when no one else would. A strange warmth spreads through my chest, even as my heart pounds faster. That's not a good enough reason to risk your life. He gives a faint smile. It is for me. I look away, trying to hide the flush creeping up my neck. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because I might start believing you. His smile fades, replaced by a look I can't read. Something between warning and want. Maybe you should. For a long moment, neither of us moves. The hum of the old refrigerator fills the silence, the only witness to a tension I can't untangle. I feel his gaze on me, steady, unrelenting, and despite everything, I don't want him to look away. When he finally does, it's abrupt. He turns toward the door. I'll be nearby tonight, he says. Lock up and go home. Don't take the main road. You'll be watching? His voice is quiet. Always. Then he's gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the echo of his words. I don't know how long I stand there after he leaves. The room feels emptier now, but also safer. Like his presence has carved out a small space of certainty in the middle of chaos. I don't know if I trust him, but I know I want to. When I finally close up and step outside, the rain has stopped. The air smells clean, almost new. I wrap my coat tighter and start walking down the alley. The night feels alive, humming, watchful. Halfway down the block, I see a figure leaning against a lamppost across the street. Dark coat, still posture. I know it's him. He doesn't move, doesn't call out, but somehow that silent watchfulness is enough. For the first time in days, I don't feel entirely alone. By the time I reach my apartment, the city has gone quiet again. My brother's asleep, his soft breathing steady from the next room. I sit by the window, staring at the streetlights below, half expecting that same figure to still be there. He's not. But I know he's close. And as I sit there, the fear that's been gripping me since the night of the note starts to shift, not fading but changing shape. It's no longer the panic of someone hunted. It's the sharp, dangerous awareness of someone being watched and protected. I don't know what Asher really is. A savior, a threat, a stranger who feels too familiar too fast. But as I close my eyes and let the night swallow the city, one truth anchors itself deep inside me. This isn't over, and I'm not running anymore. The sound of Kevin's cough pulls me out of another restless night. It's still dark, the sky outside a bruised shade of gray, and the city hasn't decided if it's morning yet. I sit up, rub my eyes, and listen. 1, 2, 3 coughs, then silence. It's always like that lately, little fits that leave him breathless and me terrified. The air in the apartment is thin and stale, heavy with the smell of disinfectant. I move quietly to his room. He's asleep, curled beneath a threadbare blanket, his lips parted just enough for a soft wheeze to escape. The heart monitor on the nightstand flickers, its quiet beep reminding me that everything I do, every shift, every decision, every risk, starts and ends with him. I brush his hair from his forehead. "It's okay, Kev," I whisper. "You just rest." He doesn't stir. He's so pale these days, thinner than he should be for 17. The doctor says the new medication might help, but the cost still sits like a weight on my chest. Every day feels like a countdown. I straighten and glance at the clock. 5:12 a.m. The diner opens in an hour. If I leave now, I can grab the early bus. I pull my coat from the hook by the door and pause. On the windowsill, tucked beneath an old photograph of me and Kevin, lies a folded napkin. I unfold it for the 10th time since last night. Lock the windows. Stay alert. I'll check in before dark. Asher's handwriting is sharp, deliberate, the kind of writing that looks like it could slice paper if you press too hard. He must have slipped it under my door while I was putting Kevin to bed. The rational part of me says I should be angry, furious even. No one invited him into my life, but another part, the part that's been on edge since the note, feels something else entirely. Safety. A strange, unwanted comfort that scares me more than the men who followed me. I tuck the napkin back under the frame, grab my bag, and head out. The diner smells like burnt toast and bleach when I walk in. Terry's already at the grill, humming some old blues tune that crackles through the radio. "Morning, Juliet," he calls. "You look like you slept in a hurricane." "Close enough," I say, tying my apron. "Coffee?" He chuckles. "Make it 2. The bell over the door jingles at 6:30 sharp. I don't have to look up to know it's him. Asher always walks the same way, steady, measured, aware of every corner before he turns it. He takes his usual booth near the window, slides his hands into his jacket pockets, and nods once when our eyes meet. I pour him coffee, ignoring the way my pulse quickens. "You're early." "So are you." "Couldn't sleep." Neither could I. His gaze drifts toward the window, scanning the street outside like he's expecting something. I follow his eyes, but see only the same gray drizzle and a delivery truck idling by the curb. "You don't have to keep watching out for me," I say quietly. "I can take care of myself." He looks back at me, one brow raised. "You believe that?" "I want to. I have to." His mouth curves, almost a smile. "Then we'll make sure you can." I frown. "We? As long as they think you're connected to me, you're a target, so I'm staying close." I open my mouth to argue, but he adds, "Don't worry, I'll pay for my coffee." That earns him an eye roll, but it hides the flutter in my stomach. By noon, the diner fills with regulars, and Asher's gone quiet, eyes on his phone. I bring plates to tables, refill mugs, try to lose myself in routine, but my thoughts keep circling back to Kevin, to the medical bills, to the late rent notice on the fridge, to the life that's shrinking around me like a tightening rope. When the lunch crowd clears, I bring Asher the check. "You planning to sit here all day?" He doesn't look up. "Maybe." "Don't you have somewhere to be?" "I'm already there." I exhale sharply. "You're impossible." He pockets his phone, finally meeting my eyes. "I found something." That stops me. "Found what?" He gestures to the empty seat. "Sit." I hesitate, glance at Terry. He's wiping down the counter, pretending not to listen, and slide into the booth. Asher lowers his voice. "You remember the men from the other night?" "How could I forget? They weren't small time." He slides his phone across the table. On the screen is a photo of one of them, grainy but clear enough to show the same sharp jaw and dark suit. Name's Luca Marino. Works for the Marino family. My breath catches. "The Mafia?" He nods. "Old world structure, new world reach. Money laundering, weapons, pharmaceuticals. They own half the city, directly or through front businesses, including apparently your diner's supplier." I blink, stunned. "You're saying we've been buying from them?" "More like they've been using the diner to move small shipments. Cash, product, messages. It's perfect. Quiet place, routine staff, no questions asked." I shake my head. "No, Terry would never." "I didn't say he knows." Asher cuts in. "That's what makes it work." The world tilts slightly. I grip the edge of the table. "So when I gave you that note, you handed me a signal meant for someone else." I stare at him. "And now they think I'm part of it." "Yes." The word lands like a stone. I sit back, trying to process it all, the note, the threats, the men, the way every piece of my life seems to have cracked open overnight. Asher leans forward, voice lower now. "Juliet, I need you to be honest with me. Has anyone approached you, asked questions, offered money?" I shake my head. "No, just the usual customers. Think carefully." I close my eyes. Faces blur together. Truckers, night shift nurses, strangers passing through. But then one memory surfaces. A man in a gray coat last week, before any of this started. He left a big tip and a folded napkin under his plate. I thought nothing of it. "There was someone," I say slowly. "He asked if we were hiring, said he used to work here years ago, but he kept watching the back door." Asher's expression hardens. "Did you get a name?" "Frank, or maybe Fred." "Something with an F." "That's enough." He pulls out his phone again, typing something fast. "If I'm right, that was one of Marino's runners. They use old staff records to move through places unnoticed." I feel sick. "So I was marked before I even handed you the note." He looks up. "You didn't stand a chance of avoiding it. They chose you because you looked harmless." "Guess I fooled them." He gives a quiet laugh, warm, brief, genuine. "You did more than that." For a moment the tension eases, but then his expression darkens again. "This isn't over. The Marinos don't leave loose ends." "Then what do we do?" "We keep them thinking you're under my protection." That sounds like a death sentence. "It's a deterrent," he corrects. "They know what I used to be. They won't risk open contact until they're sure I've switched sides." "And have you?" He meets my gaze evenly. "Would you believe me if I said yes?" I hesitate. "I don't know." "That's fair." He slides out of the booth and tosses a few bills on the table. "I'll come by tonight. Don't lock me out." "Always the gentleman," I mutter. His mouth twitches. "You'll thank me later." Then he's gone again, leaving behind only the faint scent of his cologne and a silence that hums beneath my skin. The afternoon drags. Every time the door opens, my stomach knots. I keep expecting men in suits, questions I can't answer. But nothing happens, just customers, tips, dishes. When the shift ends, I hurry home. The hallway outside my apartment smells like damp carpet and old smoke. Kevin's sitting up when I walk in, eyes bright despite the fatigue. "Hey, Jules," he says, smiling weakly. "You bring pie?" I grin and pull a small box from my bag. "Apple, your favorite." He cheers softly, coughing halfway through. I hand him water. "You don't have to work so much," he says once he catches his breath. "We'll figure something out." I force a smile. That's what big sisters are for. He doesn't push, but I see the worry in his eyes. I change the subject quickly, telling him about a rude customer, about Terry's bad singing, about anything that isn't fear. When he finally drifts back to sleep, I sit by the window again. The city glows faintly under a low fog. I spot a dark car parked across the street. Too clean, too still. My stomach flips. Before I can reach for the phone, there's a knock at the door. 3 sharp taps. "Asher?" "It's me," comes his voice. I unlock the door fast. Relief and irritation colliding. "You can't keep showing up like this." He steps inside, scanning the room in one practiced glance. "You've got company outside." I noticed. He moves to the window, lifts the curtain just enough to peek. "Silver sedan, Marino's watchers. They're keeping distance, for now." I cross my arms. "And what happens when they stop keeping distance?" He turns, eyes meeting mine. "Then I stop them." There's no bravado in his tone, just certainty. It should scare me, but it doesn't. He studies the small apartment, the photos, the medicine bottles on the counter. "Kevin," he says softly, "how bad is it?" I hesitate, then sigh. He was diagnosed 3 years ago. Heart condition, immune complications. The treatments help, but they're expensive. I pick up every extra shift I can, but it's never enough. Asher nods slowly. "You do all this alone?" "There's no one else." Something flickers in his eyes, admiration maybe, or guilt. "You're tougher than you look." "People keep saying that." He smiles faintly. "Because it's true." We stand there in the quiet for a moment, the city humming outside, Kevin breathing softly in the next room. For once, I don't feel like I have to fill the silence. Then Asher breaks it. "Juliet, I'm sorry." "For what?" "For dragging you into this." "You didn't drag me anywhere," I say. "I walked right into it." He shakes his head. "No, you tried to help, and now you're on their radar because of me." I step closer before I can stop myself. "Then get me off it." His voice drops. "I'm trying." There's something raw in his tone that makes my chest ache. I can see the fatigue behind his calm, the weight of whatever he's been carrying long before I met him. Without thinking, I reach up and touch the cut on his temple. "You should clean that." He catches my wrist gently. "I've had worse." "Doesn't mean you should ignore it." For a heartbeat, neither of us moves. His hand is warm around mine, steady and sure. Then he lets go slowly, like he's afraid to break something invisible between us. "I'll take care of it," he says quietly. "Good." He steps back, runs a hand through his hair. "Get some rest. I'll stay until they leave." I start to protest, but his expression leaves no room for argument. So I lie down on the couch, pretending I can sleep while he sits by the window, a silent silhouette against the glow of the streetlights. The minutes stretch. The steady rhythm of the rain returns. I drift between waking and dreaming, aware of his presence, the faint sound of his breathing, the shift of his chair when he looks outside. At some point I whisper, "Why are you really doing this, Asher?" He doesn't answer right away. Then softly, "Because I owe someone. Someone like me?" He turns slightly. "Someone who tried to do the right thing and paid for it." I open my eyes, but he's looking out the window again. The weight of those words settles deep. I don't ask more. Whatever he's seen, it's written in the way he stands guard without flinching. Eventually the rain stops. The silver sedan pulls away. Asher stays until the sky begins to pale with dawn. When he finally turns from the window, I'm pretending to sleep. He lingers a moment, then whispers something I almost don't hear. "You deserve a world that doesn't break good people." The door clicks softly as he leaves. I wake to sunlight and the faint smell of coffee. On the table sits a folded note and 2 pills, the kind Kevin's been out of for a week. My hands shake as I read the words written in his unmistakable scrawl. "Got these through an old contact. Don't ask how. Keep him stable. I'll handle the rest." Tears sting my eyes. For the first time in forever, hope feels real enough to hurt. Outside, the city stirs awake again, unaware of the quiet wars waged inside its walls. Somewhere out there, men like the Marinos still pull strings, still decide who lives and who vanishes. And somewhere out there, Asher Hale is digging deeper into their empire because of me. I fold the note carefully, slip it into my pocket, and whisper to the empty room, "Be careful, Asher." Because now, whatever this is between us, fear, loyalty, something dangerously close to trust, it's the only thing keeping us both alive. I used to think fear had a sound, a door slamming too hard, footsteps in an empty hallway, the ring of a phone after midnight. But lately, fear doesn't make noise anymore. It just waits, quiet, patient, alive in the corners of every room I walk into. It's been 3 days since the men in the silver sedan disappeared from outside my building. 3 days since Asher left those pills for Kevin and vanished again into whatever world he's trying to keep from touching mine. The apartment feels wrong without him. Not safe exactly, but less anchored. I catch myself glancing at the window every few minutes, half expecting to see his shadow leaning against the streetlight. He hasn't called, no messages, no notes, nothing. And somehow that silence feels louder than any knock on my door ever could. Work is slow today. The diner smells like burnt oil and stale sugar. Terry's in the back restocking supplies, humming something tuneless, and I'm wiping down tables that don't need wiping just to stay busy. Every few seconds I check the door. The bell doesn't ring. By noon, I've convinced myself he's gone for good. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe normal isn't something you can have when men like him orbit your life. But then the door swings open, and everything stills. Asher walks in. He looks different this time, colder, harder. His eyes sweep the diner in one quick glance before landing on me. "We need to talk," he says. "Now?" He nods once. "Now." I glance toward the kitchen. Terry's still humming, oblivious. "In the back," I say quietly. We slip into the narrow hallway behind the kitchen, where the hum of the refrigerator masks our voices. He doesn't waste time. "There's a leak," he says. "A what?" "Someone's been feeding information to the Marinos. They're moving faster than they should, intercepting operations before they start. That doesn't happen by accident." I blink, trying to catch up. "You think it's one of your people?" "I think it might be someone close enough to watch me." The words hit harder than they should. "You think it's me?" His jaw tightens. "I think someone's using you." I laugh, sharp and humorless. That's convenient. Juliet. No, really, Asher. Every time I breathe wrong, there's some new danger I apparently caused. I take a step back, anger spiking through the fear. First the note, then the men, now this. What's next? He doesn't flinch. You want the truth? You're the only unpredictable variable left in my life right now, and unpredictability gets people killed. The words land like a slap. For a long moment, neither of us speaks. The sound of grease popping in the kitchen fills the silence. When I finally find my voice, it shakes. If you think I'm a risk, then leave. Don't come back. Problem solved. His gaze softens, almost imperceptibly. If I could, I would. Then do it. He steps closer instead. I can't. I can smell rain on him again, sharp and clean. Why not? Because if they're using you, walking away won't save you. It'll just make you easier to find. I look away. You always have an answer, don't you? He exhales slowly. Juliet, listen to me. Someone fed them information about where I was 2 nights ago. You remember the night I left those pills? Yes. They knew I'd been here. They knew about Kevin. That doesn't happen by coincidence. My chest goes tight. So they know about my brother? Yes, and that's why you need to be careful. I grip the edge of the counter. If they touch him, they won't, he says quickly. Not if I can stop it. There's something in his tone that makes me believe him even when I shouldn't. I swallow hard. What are you going to do? Find the leak. And if it's someone I know, his silence answers for him. That night, I can't stop replaying the conversation, the way his eyes searched mine, looking for lies that aren't there. The quiet guilt when he realized I was telling the truth, the way he still stood close enough to make my heart forget how to beat. The air in my apartment feels heavier than usual. Kevin's asleep again, his breathing steady, but I can't shake the feeling that the walls are listening. I pace the room, staring at the shadows stretching across the floor. Every creak makes my pulse race. Every car engine outside sounds like someone waiting. When the knock finally comes, I almost don't breathe. 3 short taps. Asher? It's me. I unlock the door, and he slips inside quickly. This time, his eyes aren't calm. They're sharp, alert, scanning everything like he expects danger to step out from behind my curtains. What happened? I whisper. He shakes his head. They're moving again. Someone gave them our location last night. I had to make sure you were still safe. I told you, no one knows where I live. That's what worries me. He walks to the window, parts the curtain with 2 fingers. Outside, the street is empty except for a parked van. Do you know that vehicle? I shake my head. It's been there since sundown. My stomach twists. Are they watching? Probably. I sink into the couch, gripping the armrest until my knuckles ache. I didn't ask for this, Asher. I know. Then why does it feel like everything I touch falls apart? He turns toward me, his expression softer now. Because people like them feed on the ones who still have something to lose. My throat tightens. Kevin. He nods once. Exactly. For a long time we just sit in silence, the city humming beyond the glass. Then he says, Juliet, there's something I need you to understand. What? This doesn't end with you quitting your job or hiding in your apartment. The only way out is through, and that means choosing a side. I look up sharply. You want me to pick between you and them? I want you to stay alive. That's not an answer. He steps closer, crouches in front of me until we're eye level. You can keep pretending you're just a waitress who got caught in the wrong story, or you can accept that you're already part of mine. The words steal my breath. What are you saying? I'm saying the only way I can protect you is if you're with me. I laugh, shaking my head. With you? Doing what? Running from hitmen? Lying to the cops? That's not living. It's surviving. I don't want to survive. The words tear out before I can stop them. I want to wake up without wondering if someone's watching my window. I want Kevin to get better. I want my life back. He lets me finish. Doesn't move. When I'm done, he says quietly, "Then help me end this." My pulse stumbles. End it how? By finding the leak, cutting off their network, and walking away clean. But I can't do it without you. Why me? Because they already believe you're involved. That gives us an advantage. An advantage? I repeat, incredulous. You mean bait? His jaw tightens. I won't let them touch you. I stand, pacing. You keep saying that like you can control everything. You can't, Asher. You think you're the only one fighting monsters? You're just feeding them. He stands too. Maybe, but at least I'm fighting. The room feels smaller now, the air electric between us. I can see the exhaustion in his face, the weight he carries like a second skin. But beneath it, something else flickers, something dangerously close to care. I whisper, "You don't even know me." I know enough. Then what do you see? He doesn't hesitate. Someone who's still good in a world that isn't. Someone who's worth saving. The words hit deeper than I expect. My throat burns. That's not your job. Maybe it is. We stand there, caught between fear and something neither of us is brave enough to name. Then he steps closer, close enough that I can feel the warmth radiating off him. "Juliet," he says softly, "you need to decide. Stay with me or walk away. But if you walk, they'll follow. And next time, I might not get there first." It's an ultimatum, but his voice isn't hard. It's pleading, quiet, real. My hands tremble. "You're asking me to trust you. I'm asking you to live." Outside, thunder rolls low and distant. The first drops of rain patter against the glass. I look at him, really look, and see not just the man who saved me, but the man who's just as trapped as I am. I whisper, "If I say yes, what happens?" "Then you do what I say. No questions, no second guessing." We disappear before they realize we're gone. And Kevin? I'll get him safe too. Something inside me shifts then, fear melting into resolve. Maybe this isn't about choices anymore. Maybe it never was. I nod slowly. "Okay." He blinks, almost surprised. "Okay." I'm in. The relief that flashes across his face is gone as quickly as it appears. He straightens, all business again. "Pack what you need. Only essentials. We leave tonight." "Where?" "Someplace they won't look. For now." I move toward the bedroom, my mind spinning. Clothes, medicine, documents. I grab what I can fit into a small duffel. My hands shake so badly I drop Kevin's inhaler twice before shoving it into the bag. When I return to the living room, Asher's on the phone, voice low. "No, she's clean. I'll handle the rest." A pause. "Burn the safe house, they know." He ends the call and meets my eyes. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." He nods once, opens the door, checks the hall. "Stay close." We slip into the night. The rain has thickened, cold needles against my skin. Asher's hand brushes mine once, brief but grounding. We move fast, down side streets and alleys that smell like rust and rainwater. Halfway to his car, I glance back and freeze. A figure stands at the far end of the block, watching us. I can't see his face, but I recognize the gray coat. "Asher," I whisper. He follows my gaze, mutters a curse, and grabs my arm. "Go." We run. The sound of footsteps splashes behind us. Tires screech somewhere close. My heart hammers so loud I can barely hear the rain. We round a corner, duck into a narrow alley. Asher pulls me against the wall, hand over my mouth as headlights sweep past the entrance. For a moment we're pressed together, breathless, silent. When the light fades, he lowers his hand but doesn't move away. His voice is barely audible. "Still think you can walk away?" I shake my head. "Not anymore." He exhales, his breath warm against my cheek. "Good." We stay like that for a heartbeat too long before he steps back, jaw tight. "Let's move." We reach his car, an old black sedan with tinted windows, and climb in. He starts the engine, the wipers slashing through the rain. As the city lights blur past, I glance at him. His grip on the wheel is tight, eyes fixed ahead, every muscle coiled. "Asher?" "Yeah?" "What if the leak isn't one of your people?" He glances at me briefly. "What do you mean?" "What if it's higher up? Someone feeding both sides." His jaw clenches. "Then this goes deeper than I thought." "And if we can't stop it?" He looks at me again, and this time there's no calm, no mask, just exhaustion and a strange kind of hope. "Then we burn it down." The rain pounds harder. Kevin's medicine rattles softly in my bag. And as the city disappears behind us, I realize that this is it, the point of no return. Whatever waits ahead, I've made my choice. And somewhere deep inside the fear, a part of me almost feels alive again. The motel room smells like damp curtains and cigarette smoke. The wallpaper is peeling near the ceiling, the color of old tea, and the hum of the neon sign outside flickers through the blinds in tired bursts of red and blue. It's been 2 nights since we left the city, 2 nights of running, sleeping in shifts, watching the rearview mirror like it might start talking. Asher hasn't said much since we got here. He spends hours on his phone, pacing near the window, his voice low but sharp when he speaks. Every so often, I catch pieces of conversation, names, coordinates, words like shipment and contact compromised. I've stopped asking questions, partly because I'm scared of the answers, mostly because I already know he won't give them. Kevin's medicine rests on the nightstand beside my bed. He's safe for now. Asher made sure of that. I don't know how. I stopped asking about that too. The first night I thought I'd leave when Asher fell asleep. Walk until my legs gave out. Take a bus to anywhere. Start over. But something kept me still. Maybe fear. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe the quiet promise in his eyes that he'd keep us safe. Now, I'm not sure if I believe him or if I want to. It's late when he finally speaks. Juliet. He's standing by the window again, one hand in his pocket, the other tracing the edge of the curtain. The glow from the streetlight paints half his face gold, the other half lost in shadow. Yeah? We can't keep running. I figured. He turns to me, eyes steady. I've been thinking about what happens next. That makes one of us. His mouth curves slightly. I've got an offer. I sit up a little straighter. You make that sound like business. It is business, he says simply, but it could also be freedom. I cross my arms. Freedom and business don't usually share a bed. They can, he says quietly, if you're willing to pay the price. Something in his tone sends a shiver through me. What kind of price? Loyalty. I laugh, short and bitter. That's it? You want my loyalty? You already have my life half owned. I don't want your life, he says. I want your choice. That stops me. My choice? He walks toward me, slow, deliberate. You're smart, Juliet. You've seen how deep this goes. You can't go back to that diner. You can't live like nothing happened. You have two options now: hide forever or learn to live on your own terms. By doing what? Becoming like you? He doesn't flinch. If that's what it takes to survive. I stare at him. So this is your big offer? Trade one kind of fear for another? He sits across from me, his posture calm, his eyes sharp. I'm offering protection, power, control. You'd never have to worry about money, or Kevin's treatment, or anyone coming after you again. And in return? In return, he says slowly, you work with me. You learn my world. You earn their respect, not their pity. I feel the room tilt. You're asking me to join you. I'm asking you to stop running. The rain outside starts again, a soft patter against the window. It fills the silence that grows between us. I whisper, you're serious. As serious as it gets. My hands tremble in my lap. You think I could survive in your world? I know you could. I shake my head. You don't even know who I am. He leans forward slightly. I know enough. You're the kind of person who still cares even when it costs you. That kind of loyalty can't be bought, and that's exactly why I need you. I look away, staring at the cracks in the wall. You sound like every man who's ever tried to sell me something I can't afford. I'm not selling anything, he says softly. I'm giving you a choice. A real one. I stand abruptly, needing distance. Do you hear yourself? You're talking about the Mafia, Asher. You're talking about money launderers, killers, men who burn lives down because someone blinked wrong. And you're asking me to, what? Pour coffee for them? His voice stays calm, too calm. I'm asking you to stop pretending you're safe outside of it. The words slice through the air. He's right, and we both know it. There's no going back to normal. Not after the note, the threats, the men outside my apartment. The world I knew ended the moment I met him. Still, the idea of becoming part of his world makes my stomach twist. If I say yes, I ask, what happens to me? You start training. You learn who's who, what's worth knowing, who to trust. You stay under my protection. No one touches you or your brother. And if I say no? He hesitates, and that pause is answer enough. I sit back down slowly, the weight of it settling over me. He studies me for a long moment, then says, I won't force you, but think about what you're turning down. You've seen what they do to people who walk away. My throat tightens. You mean people like you? People worse than me? I want to ask who they are, but his eyes stop me. Some truths are too dangerous to name out loud. The rain keeps falling. Time feels slower here, the seconds stretching like they're trying to test how much silence two people can bear before something breaks. Finally I say, you think I'd make it? In your world? He tilts his head. I think you already have. Later, when he steps outside to make another call, I stare at the ceiling and let the words replay in my head. Loyalty, power, control. They sound like promises, but I know better. Every promise has teeth. Kevin's face flashes behind my eyelids, the way he smiled at the apple pie, the way he tried to hide his coughs so I wouldn't worry. The hospital bills stacked on the counter, the phone calls I ignored because I couldn't bear to hear the numbers. I've spent my whole life trying to play by the rules, working, saving, surviving. But the rules don't protect people like us. Maybe Asher's right. Maybe the only way to stop being prey is to learn how to bite. When he comes back in, he's quieter. Tired, maybe. I sit up, watching him. Did you mean it? I ask. He looks at me. Which part? All of it. The offer, the promises. His expression softens slightly. I don't make promises, but I keep my word. Same difference. Not really. I cross my arms. What would I even do, Asher? I don't have your kind of experience. I'm a waitress who's good at smiling and pretending not to hear what people say. He steps closer. Exactly. You listen without being seen. You notice things others don't. That's more valuable than you think. I don't want to be valuable to men who kill people for sport. He stops in front of me, close enough that I can see the faint scar near his collarbone. You wouldn't be valuable to them, he says. You'd be valuable to me. My heart stumbles. That sounds worse. He gives a faint smile. It's not. Prove it. His smile fades. He takes a breath, as if choosing words carefully. You think I like this life? That I enjoy having blood on my hands? I didn't choose it. But now that I'm in it, the least I can do is make sure it doesn't swallow good people whole. His voice drops lower. You remind me of the line I crossed to survive. The part of me that used to believe things could still be better. Don't lose that, Juliet. Not even here. I stare at him, unable to speak. No one's ever looked at me like that before, with something between reverence and warning. When I finally find my voice, it's barely a whisper. You make it sound like you're already gone. He gives a short laugh, bitter and tired. Maybe I am. The silence stretches again. Then, almost impulsively, I reach out and touch his wrist. He doesn't pull away. His skin is warm, his pulse steady. Why me? I ask softly. Why not someone else? Because you didn't flinch. At what? At the truth. He looks down at my hand on his wrist, then at me. That makes you dangerous in the right ways. A chill moves through me. I don't want to be dangerous. You already are. I pull my hand back, unsettled. If I say yes, there's no going back, is there? No, he says quietly. There never is. The next morning, I wake to sunlight cutting through the blinds. Asher's not in the room, but a cup of coffee sits on the nightstand, still warm. Next to it, a folded envelope. Inside are bills, more money than I've ever seen at once, and a note in his neat handwriting. For Kevin. No strings. Yet. I stare at it for a long time. The yet burns like a brand. When he returns an hour later, I'm still sitting there. You left money, I say flatly. For your brother. You know I can't take this. You already did. I hold up the envelope. This isn't help, Asher. It's a leash. Call it what you want, he says, but it buys you time. I don't want time bought with your blood money. He leans against the wall, arms crossed. Then earn it. Work with me. Make it clean. I thought nothing in your world was clean. He shrugs. Then we make it less dirty. I laugh softly. You're impossible. Persistent, he corrects. Manipulative. Honest. We lock eyes. The air between us hums with the kind of tension that feels like standing too close to fire. I should hate him for this, for what he's turning me into. But all I can feel is the quiet pull of something I don't understand yet. I whisper, You really think I can survive this? I think you're already doing it. He pushes off the wall and hands me a small black phone. My number's in there. When you're ready, call me. Don't wait too long. Choices have a way of making themselves if you don't make them first. He turns toward the door. Asher. He stops. If I say yes, what happens to me? He looks back, and for a moment, all the distance and darkness in him fade. Then you stop being hunted. And start hunting instead? His smile is small and sad. Only if you want to. The door closes softly behind him. That night, I sit by the window, phone in my hand. The envelope lies beside me, heavy with possibility. The world outside feels both closer and farther than ever, like I'm standing on the edge of something that could destroy me or save me, depending on which way I fall. Kevin stirs in his sleep, mumbling my name. I glance at him, then back at the phone. Maybe this is the only way to keep him safe. Maybe safety was never about being good. It was about being strong enough to survive the bad. I take a deep breath, press the call button, and bring the phone to my ear. It rings once. Then I hear his voice, calm, certain. I knew you'd call. And just like that, the decision is made. The night feels heavier than usual, like the air itself knows something terrible is about to happen. It's almost midnight, and the city is too quiet. No sirens, no cars, no stray voices, just the hum of the streetlights and the low growl of thunder rolling in from the distance. I can feel it coming. The storm, the confrontation, the end of running. Asher stands by the window, the glow from the city painting faint gold lines across his face. He's wearing black again, the kind of black that swallows the light, with a small pistol holstered under his jacket. His phone is on the table beside a folded map, a gun magazine, and a single key. He hasn't said a word in 10 minutes. Finally, I break the silence. You're thinking too loud. He glances over his shoulder, eyes sharp but softer when they meet mine. You should get some rest. I'm not tired. Neither am I. I walk over to the map spread across the table. It's a blueprint of an old warehouse on the docks. The same docks that have been in the background of every whispered conversation since this nightmare started. What's this? I ask. Their main transfer hub. They've been moving weapons and money through it for months under cover of shipments from the South Docks. The Marinos have people inside customs, police, even the Port Authority. It's airtight. And you want to break in? He shakes his head. I want to burn it down. Something cold slips down my spine. You mean, not literally. The data, the accounts, their records, every transaction, every dirty deal, gone. If we take that from them, they lose leverage. They lose control. And they kill us, I say. He smiles faintly. Only if we fail. I stare at the blueprint, my heart pounding. How do we do it? We don't. I look up sharply. I do, he says. Not a chance. Juliet. No, I snap, stepping closer. You're not walking in there alone. Not after everything. You need me. He gives a small, almost tired laugh. You've been spending too much time around me? I'm serious. So am I. The room falls silent. The storm outside finally breaks, rain tapping hard against the windows. I can see the faint tremor in his hand when he picks up the key, the same one that's always steady. That's when I know he's scared. You think this ends with you dying a hero? I say quietly. He looks at me, and for the first time his expression cracks. It ends with you safe. I shake my head. That's not good enough. Something in my voice makes him pause. Then, slowly, he puts the key down and rubs his temples. You don't understand what's waiting there. These aren't people, Juliet. They're wolves wearing skin. Then it's about time someone bites back. He stares at me for a long moment. Then his jaw tightens. Fine. You want in? You're in. But you follow my lead. Every move, every word. Deal. He leans over the table, pointing to a section on the map. This corridor connects the main office to the loading docks. That's where they keep the servers. Once we get the data, we send it to an external drive and wipe the rest. I nod. And security? Armed, loyal, trigger-happy. Perfect. His mouth curves slightly. You're enjoying this. Not even a little. He doesn't believe me, and maybe he's right. Somewhere under the fear, there's a new pulse running through me, adrenaline, defiance, something dangerously close to control. I grab my jacket. Let's finish this. The docks smell like salt, rust, and rain-soaked oil. The air is thick and cold, the kind that stings your throat when you breathe too fast. We park 2 blocks away and walk the rest of the distance, cutting through shadows and narrow alleys. The warehouse looms ahead, massive and silent, its lights faint behind the curtain of rain. Asher moves like he was built for this. Silent, precise, every step calculated. I stay behind him, matching his pace. My heart is pounding so loud, I'm sure someone will hear it. When we reach the side gate, he stops and presses his hand to the keypad. "Still works," he mutters. "You used to have access?" "Used to." The lock clicks open. We slip inside. The corridor is dimly lit, lined with metal crates and the faint echo of dripping water. Every sound feels amplified. The squeak of my boots, the soft rasp of his breath. He raises a hand signaling me to stop. 2 guards are up ahead, their shadows moving under the light. Asher turns, whispers, "Stay back." I shake my head. "You need a distraction." He doesn't have time to argue. I grab a wrench from a nearby crate and toss it across the hall. It clatters loudly, echoing off the walls. The guards move instantly, guns drawn, heading toward the noise. Asher steps forward, silent and deadly. And within seconds, both men are down, unconscious, not dead. He glances at me, eyes sharp. "I said stay back." "You're welcome," I whisper. He doesn't answer, just moves ahead. We reach the main office, a large room overlooking the loading bay. Through the glass, I can see a dozen men loading boxes onto a truck. The faint glow of computer screens reflects off the glass wall. Asher pulls a small device from his pocket. Once I connect this, it'll start copying everything onto the drive. We'll have maybe 5 minutes before the system flags it. Plenty of time. "Juliet, don't tell me to stay put again." He sighs, muttering something under his breath, and moves to the server rack. I keep watch by the window, heart thudding with every passing second. Then I see movement outside. 3 black SUVs pulling up fast, headlights cutting through the rain. "Asher," I whisper. He doesn't look up. "How many?" "Too many." He curses softly. "They weren't supposed to know we were here yet." "They do now." The first shots ring out a moment later, shattering glass, echoing through the metal corridors. I duck, adrenaline surging. "Asher!" He's already grabbing the drive, yanking the cable free. "Go!" We run. The air fills with gunfire and shouting. The warehouse becomes a maze of smoke and sparks, every step an explosion of noise. He pushes me ahead, guiding me toward the side exit. "Keep moving!" I turn a corner and freeze. A man is waiting at the end of the hallway, gun raised. The same man from the gray coat, the one who's been watching us since the beginning. "Well," he says, smiling coldly, "the famous Juliet." My breath catches. "You." He gestures with the gun. "Hands up, sweetheart." Asher appears behind me, his gun raised, eyes hard. "Let her go, Luca." "Always the hero," Luca says. "You never learn." "Maybe I finally did," Asher replies. The 2 men stare each other down, the tension stretching taut as wire. I can feel it, that split second before something breaks. Luca sneers. "You think she's worth dying for?" Asher's voice is calm. "You tell me." The shot comes fast. One crack of thunder, then another. Luca drops first, the gun sliding from his hand. I'm shaking, ears ringing, but I'm alive. Asher lowers his weapon slowly, his breath heavy. "You okay?" I nod, though my knees threaten to give out. "You?" "Better now." We move again, bursting through the exit just as the trucks explode behind us. Flames rise high into the storm, painting the night in orange and gold. We keep running until the docks are nothing but smoke in the distance. When we finally stop, I double over, gasping for air. Asher turns, pulling me close without a word. His chest rises and falls against mine, steady, grounding. "We did it," I whisper. "For now," he says. I pull back just enough to meet his eyes. "You still think I don't belong in your world?" He smiles faintly. "You just helped take down half the Merino Empire. I think you've earned your place." "Is that your way of saying thank you?" His voice drops low. "That's my way of saying I trust you." Something warm flares in my chest, cutting through the exhaustion. "That's dangerous, you know." He nods. "So are you." The rain starts again, washing the blood and smoke from the streets. The city stretches out before us, broken, burning, but alive. For the first time in weeks, I don't feel like prey anymore. I look at Asher, at the faint smile that barely reaches his eyes, and realize that whatever happens next, we're past the point of no return. The world we knew is gone. What's left is ours to build or destroy. And for the first time, I'm not afraid to see which one it'll be. The city looks different after the fire. Not brighter, not safer, just quieter. Like even the buildings are holding their breath, waiting to see what happens next. The morning light spills over the docks, soft and gray, washing away the chaos that burned here last night. Smoke still drifts in slow curls from the blackened skeletons of trucks and containers. The ocean breeze carries the scent of salt and ash, the perfume of victory and loss all tangled together. We're alive. That's the miracle I keep repeating to myself. Asher stands beside me on the edge of the pier, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the horizon. The sun catches the scar on his temple, a pale line that looks almost peaceful in the light. He hasn't spoken much since the explosion. Neither have I. When everything goes quiet after a war, words feel clumsy, too small for what's left behind. Finally, he breaks the silence. "You did good last night." I let out a shaky breath. "Good? I almost got us killed." He looks over at me, the faintest smile tugging at his mouth. "So did I. Guess that makes us even." I can't help it. I laugh. It's soft, unexpected, and real. The first time I've laughed in weeks without forcing it. The sound feels strange, like something I'd forgotten I could do. He turns back to the water. "You should rest." "You've earned it." "I don't think I can," I admit. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the fire." He nods slowly. "It gets easier." "Does it?" He pauses, then says, "You just learn to live with the ghosts." I study his face, calm, collected, but there's something underneath it. A fracture. Maybe guilt, maybe relief, maybe both. "What happens now?" I ask quietly. He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he takes a small device from his pocket. The same external drive we risked everything to get. He turns it over once in his hand before tossing it into the sea. It disappears with a faint splash. "That was our insurance," I say, startled. "That was their power," he corrects. "And I'm done letting it control us." He sounds certain, but I can see it. The exhaustion, the weight of too many years spent fighting shadows. I step closer, folding my arms against the chill. "So this is it? You're just walking away?" "Not walking," he says. "Rebuilding." "And me?" He finally turns to face me fully. "You can do whatever you want now, Juliet. You're free." The word lands heavy. Free. It sounds like a gift, but it feels like a test. What does that even mean? I ask. Free to do what? Go back to waitressing? Pretend none of this happened? His gaze softens. You don't have to pretend anymore. You saw what this city really is, the rot underneath it. You can choose to leave it behind or help change it. I shake my head slowly. You're talking about staying. He nods once. Someone has to keep the balance. The Merinos are gone, but others will fill the vacuum. If I step away now, everything we did last night will mean nothing. So you're still in the game. I'm changing the rules. The conviction in his voice sends a chill through me. I realize then that for all the power he's gained, Asher isn't a man who seeks control for its own sake. He's someone trying to rewrite a story that was never his to begin with. Juliet, he says, I need someone I can trust. Someone who's not blinded by greed or bloodlines. Someone who can see this world for what it is and still believe it can be something better. I blink, unsure if I'm hearing him right. You mean me? He nods. You've already proven you can stand your ground. You think fast, you don't scare easy, and you don't follow orders unless you understand them. That's exactly the kind of person this world needs. I laugh softly. That sounds a lot like insubordination. It sounds like leadership. I stare at him. You're serious. Completely. For a long time, I can't find words. I think of the diner, the smell of coffee and burnt toast, the cheap clock that ticked above the counter. I think of Kevin, asleep in his hospital bed, the steady rhythm of the monitor, keeping time with my heartbeat. I think of who I used to be, a girl just trying to survive another day, and I realize she's gone. Maybe she died the night I handed him that note. Maybe she was reborn in the fire. Either way, I'm not her anymore. What would you need me to do? I ask quietly. Learn, he says simply. Observe, advise, help me build something that doesn't depend on fear. The city's not going to fix itself, but we can start something that keeps people safe without bloodshed. I raise an eyebrow. You really think that's possible? He gives a small smile. I think it's worth trying. There's a flicker of something in his eyes when he says it. Hope. Small, fragile, but alive. And for the first time, I believe him. I exhale slowly. Okay. He looks at me, surprised. Okay? I'll do it. But on one condition. What's that? I'm not your employee, I say. I'm your partner. His smile deepens, the kind that reaches his eyes this time. Deal. A week later, the city starts breathing again. The newspapers call it the fall of the Merinos, but they don't tell the truth. They never do. They talk about mysterious fires, disbanded networks, and sources close to law enforcement. No one mentions the man who started it all, or the woman who walked through fire beside him. That's fine by me. Kevin's back home now. The doctors say he's improving faster than expected. The first time I saw him sit up and smile, I cried harder than I did the night the docks burned. He doesn't know the full story, just that I found help when I needed it most. And for now, that's enough. Asher's been busy cleaning house. The empire he once worked under is gone, but its bones are still here. Old contacts, hidden accounts, men who survived the fall. He meets with them quietly, one by one, redrawing the lines, changing the rules. He never says exactly what those meetings involve, but I know one thing for sure. People are listening to him now, and they're afraid, not of what he'll do, but of what he won't tolerate anymore. The first time he brings me to one of the new offices, a renovated space overlooking the river, I almost laugh. Not exactly the Mafia vibe I was expecting, I say, glancing at the glass walls and white floors. Modern problems, he says, require modern fronts. He gestures toward a large desk near the window, a computer, a phone, a file with my name on it. What's this? Your desk. I blink. You're serious? Completely. I set my bag down slowly, running my hand over the polished wood. So what do you want me to do first? Start by telling me when I'm being an idiot. I grin. You might regret that. I doubt it. He says it so simply, so matter-of-factly, that I can't help but smile. For the next few days, I work beside him, reading reports, analyzing supply routes, finding patterns where others see chaos. It's strange how natural it feels. Dangerous, maybe, but purposeful. And every night when we leave the office and step into the cool city air, I realize something else. For the first time in years, I'm not afraid. It's late when I find him on the roof one evening, leaning against the railing, staring at the skyline. The city glows beneath us, alive, unpredictable, unbreakable. He doesn't turn when he says, "You ever think about what you'd be doing right now if none of this happened?" All the time, I admit. And I'd probably still be at the diner, still tired, still scared. He nods. And now, I step up beside him. Now I'm still tired, but I'm not scared anymore. He looks at me then, really looks. And I see it, the weight he's carried for so long starting to lift, even if just a little. You changed me, he says quietly. I smile faintly. You gave me no choice. He laughs under his breath. Fair enough. We stand there for a while, watching the city stretch toward the horizon. The scars it carries are the same as ours, deep but healing. Finally, I ask, do you ever wonder if we'll get to stop fighting? He's quiet for a long moment. Then he says, maybe not. But at least now we're fighting for something worth it. I nod, my hand brushing his. He doesn't move away. The night breeze carries the faint sounds of life. A car horn, distant laughter, the heartbeat of a city refusing to die. I close my eyes and let it wash over me. For so long I thought freedom meant escaping, running from fear, from danger, from the people who hurt us. But now I understand. Freedom isn't running. It's standing your ground. It's choosing who you fight for. And I've made my choice. Asher glances at me, the city lights flickering in his eyes. You ready for what's next? I smile. Always. He reaches for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine. The contact is simple, quiet, but it feels like a promise. Whatever comes next, the chaos, the danger, the rebuilding, we'll face it together. Not as strangers bound by circumstance, not as enemies turned allies, but as something new, something stronger. The rain begins to fall again, soft and steady, washing the city clean. And beneath the hum of neon and thunder, I whisper the words I never thought I'd mean again. This isn't the end, is it? He shakes his head, smiling faintly. No, Juliet. It's just the beginning. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, wait until you see what's coming next. It's even more powerful and inspiring than you can imagine. So don't go anywhere. Click on that video showing on your screen right now to dive into another amazing story that will absolutely blow your mind. Trust me, you won't regret it.